Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, which has been remade in Unity. So Gavin Clayton tweeted out, Daggerfall Unity 1.0.0 release is now available. After several years in development and the efforts of many people, Daggerfall Unity is finally considered complete. The project will now move into post-release community support and maintenance. If you are curious about this one, Daggerfall Unity is up on GitHub, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Next up, we're talking about Windows emulation on Android with Cassia, and we've got a juicy update from them. So here's the latest scoop from Cassia. They say, while not much of our progress has been visible in 2023, lots of Cassia's core is now in place, and we should hopefully be able to start running games on actual phones in the coming months. Expect lots of sneak peeks after this. There's still lots of work left to be done, especially on the GPU emulation side, but we're aiming for an initial release sometime in the second half of 2024. Now, to be clear, and I don't think this needs to be said, but the second half of 2024 is from July onwards, and I'm expecting this in November or possibly even December. Now, for some context here, and for those who may not be aware, the main developers behind Cassia were the main developers behind Skyline. And Yuzu used Skyline code to get NCE working on Android. So I'm fully expecting and hoping that Cassia will be better than stuff like Winlater and Mobox, but we'll have to wait and see. And speaking about Yuzu, next up we're talking about Yuzu, specifically on Android, and Yuzu on Android has been quietly receiving updates and getting new features. For reference, here are the graphics options in Yuzu before, and here are the graphics options now. You can see the addition of anisotropic filtering. So yes, the Yuzu team has added in anisotropic filtering. By default, it's set to default, but you can crank it up to 16 times if you want, but it might affect performance. The best way to pick up the latest and greatest version of Yuzu isn't necessarily to wait for the Google Play Store to update. You can go right to the GitHub and pick it up from here. At the time of filming, Android 177 is the latest version, and this gets updated almost daily. I mean, if you don't believe me, 176 came out 2 days ago, 175 3 days ago, 174 4 days ago, 173 5 days ago. And on and on. It's very active in terms of development. Interestingly enough, with one of the more recent versions of Yuzu, someone was able to get DBZ Kakarot up and running very well with a Red Magic 6S Pro, and they included screenshots of all of their settings and how they did it. If you are curious about it, I'll drop a link in the description below. They've got it running at 30 frames per second. On top of all of that, someone's got Skyrim up and running at close to 30 frames per second, or holding at 30 frames per second with an LG V60. I'll drop a link to this video in the description below. Moving on, and we're getting into the rapid fire stuff. First up is Linux on an Android tablet. Someone's got XFCE up and running via Termux. Honestly, this is pretty impressive. It's looking really good, but it is using quite a bit of RAM. This implementation is using just over 5 gigs of RAM with only 8 available. Next, Romhacking.net is back up. Yesterday it was down mysteriously, and today it's back up and thankfully okay. If you play .hack Link, there's a brand new English translation patch for the PSP, resulting in a near-perfect gameplay experience. They say this patch contains a 100% complete story translation, all story, all side and sub-content, and a translated menu. Next, this is great news if you've got an Adreno 644 GPU. Freedreno now supports it. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to the commit in the description below, and I guess feel free to check it out. Moving on, and we're talking about the AOKZOE. I hope I said that right. Anyways, the A2 popped up on Indiegogo, and it's got quite a bit of RAM here. It does feature an AMD 7840U as well as 32 gigs of RAM, and you can get one with 64 gigs. The A2 has a 7-inch display, has Hall effect triggers and joysticks, and starts at $699, and that's for the model with 512 gigs of storage and 32 gigs of RAM. It goes up to a whopping $1,200 here with 64 gigs of RAM and 4 terabytes of storage. I'm going to expect the performance of the A2 to be similar to the ROG Ally. I could be wrong though. I mean, the A2 has 16 more gigs of RAM. but the ROG ally has a whole lot of support, at least Zeus has been paying attention to it. Next, DuckTales has been ported to the ZX Spectrum and looks pretty impressive. If you are curious about this one, the unofficial port of DuckTales Family Comes First is up on itch.io. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Next, this one's from Synth Potato and it's pretty impressive. Apparently modders are remaking GTA Vice City, bringing over every mission, weapon, NPC, and OST all into the Rage engine with Euphoria physics working. They're saying this beats the definitive edition in quite literally every way. There is a trailer for this one up on YouTube, and they're calling it Grand Theft Auto Vice City, the NextGen edition. If you are curious, like everything, link is in the description below. And last up, Xbox 360 emulation with Xenia Canary Netplay, and it looks like there is some work done to get EXP Plus statistics up and running with Halo 3. Now, Xenia Canary Netplay is a fork of Xenia Canary, which is a fork of Xenia. It is free, it's open source. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and one fluff. Right now she's sitting under the Christmas tree, just soaking up every last minute before we take it down. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state. Happy New Year.